Good afternoon, and welcome into our final hour of middays with Mannix and Mannix on 96.3 WJJB, the Big Jab. Jeff and Taylor with you. Happy New Year, and it's time to discuss some college football. We've got a national championship game matchup. Bowl season's all done. Some good games here over the last few days to talk about with our college football expert. He's Malik Hall, the host of the Catch Up with Coach podcast and a former collegiate football coach. Malik, thanks so much for joining us. Happy New Year to you. How was the celebrations, if there were any?
The New Year was okay. The New Year would have been better with a Michigan win, but hey, I got to lick my wounds and keep moving.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did see the tweet. Has the saltiness dissipated at all?
No.
No,
not at all. Not at all. I want to jump in the DeLorean and just kind of redo it all, like go back to the future if I could.
Yeah, well, and let's talk about it because one of the headlines from ESPN that I saw was best college football semifinal games ever. And Jeff and I talked about it. I mean, these were exciting, action-packed. It felt like heavyweight fights on both of them. When they're, the Mike Tyson, they're just throwing blows, one hit after the other. They have to get back up, keep fighting. What did you think of what you saw, Malik, as a former college football coach? I mean, I'm sure as a coach you probably didn't want to see those kind of games, but they're probably fun to be a part of, and for us watching, even more exciting to watch.
Yeah, what a weekend of football all around. Like, yes, I'm watching the games and I'm saying to myself, because we talked about it. We previewed it. Everything that I was hoping did not happen for Michigan happened. Like, Michigan got too cute. They tried to do things that really they didn't have to do. And their first two drives ended up with turnovers, like a 14-point out the gate. And so when you look at what Michigan had to do to come back, I mean, you talk about borrowing trouble and making it harder on you than what it has to be. And then we lose the game. How we lose the game ends on faulty timing or faulty play. I'm still salty, Tay. I don't know what else to say. And Ohio State, okay. Jeff, we just said it. We do not want to see any SEC teams in the Natty, right? And Ohio State, is playing their socks off, okay? But that also speaks to how good this Georgia ball club was. Now, however you feel about the kicker, I'm sure he probably can't go to school today. If I'm just saying. But that Georgia team showed its worth because, like, they didn't get down to Ohio State because of mistakes. They got down to Ohio State because Ohio State had their foot on the gas all the way. And so it was just great weekend, man. Great weekend of football, college football. And then your team, USC.
Man, how about that, right? Well, I'm laughing. I thought that if anything, because I was texting with a couple of my friends, I was going to ask you this too, Malik, because, obviously Williams walks away with the Heisman. I thought Duggan made quite the case for himself this weekend to say maybe I deserved a little bit of a look knocking off Michigan. But then, of course, Caleb Williams has the performance he has. It was like 5 touchdowns. It was ridiculous to watch him go. Despite them losing in the final moments, I mean, Caleb Williams proved himself a little bit there in that game against Tulane.
Guys, he threw the ball 52 times for 462 yards, 5 touchdowns. Look, he's a Heisman worthy winner, but the Red Rifle, man, like, is a difference, right? Okay, USC was night and day more athletic, bigger, faster, stronger than Tulane. And the way they pushed Tulane vertically, it was showing that. What I loved about Tulane is Tulane didn't leave their pocket of success. Their pocket of success was T. Spears and that quarterback doing his version of the TCU deal, right? And so, like, they just hung in there. And when they had their moment in the fourth quarter, they took advantage of it. And it wasn't anything Caleb Williams could do about it. Now, in that space, look, oh man, Dugan, man, he's just a player, guys. It's a player. You know who he reminds me of, to be quite honest? He reminds me of a lot of Tebow because it's
I like that.
nothing about him wows you, but he just makes you want to play with him. Like, he doesn't have a rocket arm. He's not extremely fast. This kid is built with grit, toughness, and like aptitude. He understands what's happening out there. And so, and for me, like, Michigan played into the hands of the Red Rifle, and it was fitting because the Christmas story, they say, don't you'll shoot your eye out, kid, messing with that Red Rifle. And that's exactly what happened to Michigan.
Yeah, certainly did in that instance there. Wanted to ask too here. Of course, we know Mississippi State was playing with a heavy heart in their bowl game, the ReliaQuest Bowl, but they won one for their coach with a great fourth quarter. 16 of their 19 points came in that fourth quarter. A come from behind victory for Illinois. Nice to see for the Mississippi State Bulldogs playing with heavy hearts.
Yeah, man, it was tough. I like what they did with the helmets. I like what they did with all of the memorabilia to kind of make Leach, make Mississippi State the Mike Leach Pirates today. And I just thought that said a lot. You also touched on it, like the team has a heavy heart as well. So with both teams, look, Mississippi State was a much more dynamic ball club, but you dealing with the Big Ten. I thought Illinois, the Fighting Illini, has been proven this year. But what the Big Mo can do when your team is emotionally charged. That's what we saw happen in the last little quarter with Mississippi State against Illinois.
Yeah, and just to look at a couple more of these bowl games, I do want to talk to you about Georgia a little bit more here against that game against Ohio State, with what
Sure.
a battle it was. But obviously, Iowa gets a nice win. Alabama finds a way to win as well, and Penn State getting a nice win. Who do you think in your mind, just kind of looking at it based on, and I know it's tough to just off the top look at, hey, which conference might have had the best bowl season, but in your mind, if you can think kind of just off the top of your head, just on knee-jerk reaction, which conference do you think impressed the most in this bowl season? It felt like the Big Ten didn't really do that bad themselves. I know obviously the loss to Purdue, the 63-7 was pretty bad, but you look at a few wins for Penn State, Iowa, and company. What are your thoughts on some of these conferences?
I'm a Big Ten man. The Big Ten was disappointing to me because like Wisconsin won, yes. Iowa won. Like the low end games, they held. But you got to win the big time games. Like the big time games is really the flag of the conference. They're carrying the flag of the conference, right? And so to me, Penn State, kudos to Penn State getting it done. I love James Franklin over there. I love they throwback offense. But I'm just gonna say this. If the Utes quarterback didn't get hurt, I'm not sure that was gonna be a no-brainer. And so like I just ultimately I thought the Big Ten just they did not hold the line that I was anticipating them to hold. And at the end, if I had to really kind of look at it on the outward level, the ACC didn't do well either. So that really leaves you the Big 12, right? And the SEC, which we all know who they are. But yeah, so the Big 12, I think, is the surprising conference performer of the year. I mean, Texas Tech beat Ole Miss. Kansas State had Arkansas on their heels. So like I just I just think the Big 12, considering they're having a lot of departures and a lot of new team entries, the Big 12 I think showed up in bowl season and left fewer spares out there than the others.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the ACC struggles. I mean, I think maybe their signature win as a conference in this bowl season might have been Florida State knocking off Oklahoma by 3 points and kind of barely doing it despite a number 13 ranking. But, I mean, speaking of the ACC, I mean, Clemson to me, I was kind of surprised to see the score that big against Tennessee, and I know there were probably some guys out for both sides there in a game where both were maybe a little disappointed to get there, as you say, in the Orange Bowl. But to me, at least Tennessee came and played. I almost want to call Clemson fraud based on their season here. I don't think they were as good as their record. I think they benefited from being in a really, really poor conference.
Watching that game unravel like it did, and the Milton kid is good. Joe Milton is good, but he's not Hooker. And I agree with you. I think Clemson semi got exposed a little bit just from a standpoint of they're not as athletic as they once were. But it's tough, man, because you got kids who are saving themselves for the draft. And so when you look at that Clemson Tennessee game, like those are the teams that you're going to see next year. And if anything is an indicator, Clemson won't be starting off on fire next year. But Tennessee should.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I got the records right here from CBS Sports about 2 hours ago, actually, they provided for us. ACC went 5-4, the Big Ten was 5-4, the SEC was 6-5, the Pac-12 was 3-4, and the Big 12 was 2-6, which is absolutely shocking.
Go figure. Go figure.
So, and they get it, right? But you mentioned it.
The ones they won.
The ones, and you look at TCU being the big one by them getting into the national championship. So, unbelievable there. But, yeah, just a few of those records. And speaking of that, what do you make here? Obviously, Georgia-Ohio State was an unbelievable game. I told Jeff that kind of made me feel like Georgia's human again.
Yeah.
What did you make of that game? And now what's the obvious now matchup of TCU and Georgia coming up next Monday?
I hate to say it, but you're right. Ohio State, and they were vocal about it. That's the other thing. Like social media, teams are, how do you manage it? I don't know the answer to it. But Michigan was popping off on social media about TCU's defense. You see what that got them? And now, Ohio State was very, very vocal when they lost to Michigan. Stroud was saying, listen, I think we're the better team to push that Georgia defense to the limit. And I sure enough, I concur. Because we saw, like you said, Georgia is human. They do bleed. And not only do they bleed, like they're a field goal kicker away from not being in this game. Now, as you fast forward it, it's two things I know Kirby Smart not going to let happen. He's not going to let the Red Rifle beat him. That's one. Max Duggan is a really, really dynamic athlete, but he's a better football player, and he rallies his teams behind him. They're going to make this kid throw the ball, period. And what you realize, and what I realized against the Michigan game, he doesn't throw the ball in the pocket well. Every time he had a situation where he had to sit in the pocket, poise himself, and find a target, they turned into picks, right? And then to add into that, you got a Georgia defensive line that is going to pin their ears back. And so two things. Georgia's not going to do all of the exotic pressures, and so this kid can now make a dude miss, and everyone's in man, and he takes off for a 45-yard run. They're going to make him eat them up in zone and let that defensive line earn their money this week. On that game. And so I hate to say it, this is not going to be close. And that's the part that sucks, because we just watched probably top 5 games in my lifetime of college. And now the championship game is just going to fall short. It's not going to be what we just saw.
Interesting thoughts there. Of course, we do have one other national championship game coming up this weekend, and that's on Sunday, the FCS national championship game, which is a battle of two Missouri Conference teams, North Dakota State, South Dakota State. They're already rivals. I think an interesting matchup there. Is this North Dakota State to win, even though they're the underdog, or are we going to finally see somebody other than NDSU win this thing?
I would like to tell you that, Jeff, but right now we're over for what we want, right?
That's a good point.
And so I'm telling you, with this North Dakota State situation, the way they have transformed their squad to where they're a run heavy team, but they're a run heavy team with quarterbacks. Their last two quarterbacks are currently on NFL rosters. Um, and so it's interesting that they've gotten to the Natty not because of their dynamic quarterbacks, because they have this uh, bison looking offensive line that can move anything, and they have 2 to 3 running backs who just get downhill. And because this is a familiar foe, and I think South Dakota beat them in season. I like it would be if Ohio State and Michigan was in the Natty. It's hard to beat a team that you beat in season in the postseason to make it a sweep, especially in football. So, yeah, I'm gonna go North Dakota State here, but I would like to see South Dakota get it.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say the Jackrabbits would be kind of fun to see against someone else. They have a great run game, so it'll be fun to see if they can wear down North Dakota at all, and then maybe take a crown away from them. I will ask though Malik too, because I know you're an NFL guy as well. Your Detroit Lions
Yeah,
making it interesting for you down the stretch. You might have a. I saw they flexed you to Sunday Night Football, so feels like you might be. I think I know what you're going to be doing Sunday night, huh?
hey, listen, guys. I can only hope to be in the game where we can go to Lambeau Field and punch Mr. Rogers in the mouth. That's the type of, and towards the tail end of my coaching career, the games that were just led up to the implication of the game, I became more giddy than nervous because it's like this, you couldn't have asked for a better situation if you're a Lions fan, especially considering like Green Bay. If we got to get it done at Green Bay, that's the only place I want to get it done, at Green Bay, at Lambeau. And because I think Mr. Rogers is going to try to throw the ball all over the lot and try to match and go score for score with Detroit, which is very possible. But if they do that, I see Detroit winning, because of the momentum and because Charles Rogers, uh, Mr. Rogers, he tends to kind of get a little pouty if it's not working out for him. His body language is starting to get a little different, and the key to beating the Lions is to not get in a shootout. Make them be deliberate and execute on a 3rd and 7, opposed to them ripping off a 45-yard pass on 2nd and 3. And
Yeah,
so,
well, it's also nice to see that you got Jared Goff clicking on all cylinders for you. I had to play him in 2 fantasy finals this week, bro, and that guy's been playing some good football.
hey, congratulations. And you got DeAndre Swift running the ball. Like, I look at the end.
It's crazy to say, but I think Jared Goff found a home.
I think he did too. And then here's what I'll tell you too. Him beating Mr. Rogers this weekend will solidify him as a Detroit favorite in our minds. And we'll die with him now at that point.
Yeah, indeed. So go Rams, I guess, too.
Yeah, right. You got Seattle.
right?
Seattle loses, then that game is everything, man.
That's the part that really sucks. Is like I gotta watch multiple games considering. And this is the year of this is the year of I need somebody to hit so I can go in. Because everyone, this is the year of the 8-8 playoff team. Like, it's so many potential 8-8 wild card teams to try to get in that need something to happen for them to do it. It'll be just this has been a great year of football. We've coming off of a COVID football season, and we've seen as much competitive football from college and pros as we can take and at least that my heart can handle. Speaking of heart, I just want to give a shout out to Hamlin. Um, I hope that, for as much as we love this game and we get a chance to critique and talk about it, like it's never good to see anyone carted off the field. I grew up Detroit, so when Euless got carted off the field and gave the thumbs up, it was like, oh wow, that was serious. I haven't seen anything as serious like that in today's NFL, and so I just prayers go out to him and his family and the Buffalo Bill uh, fan base.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that here just now because the Buffalo Bills have just released another update on DeMar Hamlin. In fact, that he is still in critical condition at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, and he's in the intensive care unit. They do say we're grateful and thankful for the outpouring of support we have received thus far. So there is a little bit more news on Hamlin, and it's not much of a status change, but at least it is a new update.
Sure.
Billy, thanks so much for joining us here, and we'll talk again ahead of the Natty here on next Monday. Okay, what do you say?
Hey guys, I just got to clear my palate so it's not so salty for the next time.
All right, Malik, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year to you.
Take care, guys. Keep it local.
All right, that's Malik Hall, the host of the Catch Up with Coach podcast and a former college football coach. We will be right back on Middays with Mannix and Mannix.